Well, thank you all for coming. I want to just say that if any of you can join us, we are going to do a discussion of the book Mouse by Art Spiegelman. I don't know if you can see this. It's on the library calendar, so you can find it there. And it's May 15th, Wednesday at 4 p.m. And we will be having a couple guest people in the group, including one lady who's, I think I mentioned this before, whose mother came over as a child from Europe and grew up in the United States. Her parents were Jewish. So the Mouse book is about a man whose father was also in the Holocaust.
They don't see me, though, they say.
So I think this will be really, really interesting.
Okay, my operator failure here. The camera wasn't in the right position.
Yeah. That's what your husband's for.
Exactly. Oh, he's a lot of good lately, believe me.
It's over there you can take with you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So this should be really interesting. And John Harris is hoping to come, even though he's not the full leader as usual. He said he would come. And also I have a retired high school teacher who taught this. Who should be coming also. So it should be pretty interesting.
And the book that we're reading, the Paris Library, kind of
Echoes
a little
that.
bit. Don't a little. I mean, it's what's happening in France at the time. And
and Marcia, whose mother came here, went from Germany to France. And then they realized she had to leave. So a whole bunch of kids were sent over on a ship.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, and she was one of them.
Huh.
Okay, I have a couple questions. Art Spiegelman, is he a local author?
No,
No.
His book was written in what, 90s? The 90s, won the Pulitzer Prize.
Yeah. I see it, but it's a graphic novel.
You
Yeah.
have to see it.
But it's really
Yeah.
remarkable how he filled so much information into the page. There is a copy called MetaMouse, which is kind of hard to deal with, but they do a bunch of interviews with him where he describes how he structured it. So it's very unique. In Japanese, people cannot grasp this novel because they do a whole different type of graphic novel.
Okay.
Interesting.
So, yeah,
Their manga is.
that's what they
They're
have a
anime,
variety
yeah.
of things, yeah. But this is brilliantly done. I went through the whole thing and. you
Laura,
have-
do the schools know about this? Because I
Yes.
noticed that it's at 4
Yes.
o'clock, which would be.
That's exactly
is
why
this where
it's
the
at 4 o'clock.
controversy- Okay.
Because schools in Arkansas were forbidden. I think it
Yeah.
was banned there,
Mhm.
which is why this whole controversy got started. So our children's libraries don't have the same role as a school,
That's true.
as
You don't have to.
acting as a
Mhm.
parent. So we can do this with no problem. And our children's librarian let the schools know.
Oh, that's gonna be good.
That-
That should be.
I don't know if kids will come or not, but they have been notified. So
Laura, could you give me the details again of time and date?
it's on our library calendar. It's Wednesday, May 18th
Okay,
at 4 o'clock PM.
in the Jane Green room?
Yes, we're doing a same setup
Okay,
here or on Zoom.
okay, thank
So,
you.
Yeah, I think it's going to be pretty interesting.
It is an amazing piece of.
Is it
yeah.
available at the library?
The only trouble is, and I'd say there's Mouse 1 and Mouse 2, and I'm going to focus on 1, but there are quite a few copies, but because of all of the news,
Yeah.
it's kind of hard to get a hold of one, but you might be able to before the date.
Mhm.
And you could read Mouse 2 and get the same idea.
MAUS.
Yes.
What does that word mean?
Well, you can see from the picture, he
Mouse.
chose to do was make the Jewish people mice. And the
Okay, so it is
Nazis-
mouse. Okay.
Yeah, the Nazis are cats. And I think the Polish people, the family was in Poland, are like pigs. So they're all animals, but it's so well done. You really have to.
It's amazing.
You're gonna have to
Yeah,
check
the
this out.
wording, and it's all about Art himself interviewing his father on what happened, and the father's older and, all he cares about is cleaning and eating and doing his exercise bike, but he does tell the story of what he went through. And Art's always frustrated with him that he's doing all these things like getting rid of his jacket because it's not good enough and everything. So it's done with a lot of humor also. So even though it tells a
Yeah.
really horrible story.
Yeah. When I
So-
taught eighth graders, we had the book as a part of a book selection for a book talk. And the students who picked
Oh,
that
there's
book
room.
were, I find them at all odd times, like looking at the pictures, and they got so much out of it
Yeah.
because it was, it appealed to the students who really
Yes.
wanted to learn something through the visuals.
Yes.
So, and I'm wondering if the used bookstore in town might, I don't know, maybe they.
Yeah, the
they
schools
may
have copies too,
copies.
apparently, here. That's what the children's librarian told me. So
Yeah.
give it a try.
Okay.
And even if you can't read it right away,
Yeah, I'm
I
gonna put it in
recommend
my
coming
list.
and
Yes.
listening.
Yeah.
So, all right, good to see you, Ruth. It looks like she's just logging in.
Coming in somehow.
Yeah. Well, I hope you all had a chance to read this book and enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty remarkable myself. I wanted to point out that we've done a couple of books recently that are similar. A couple of years ago, we did Americana. Do you remember that one by Adichie? Is it Amanda Adichie, also a Nigerian writer? And she come to the United States. Does anyone remember that one?
Yeah,
Yes, I
good
do.
book.
Yeah.
Yes.
And she's done some TED Talks and that sort of thing. And then just recently, we did Girl with a Louding Voice again.
Yes.
Abi Dare, another Nigerian author living in the UK. And now here we're doing this, and I didn't really plan it that way, but we sure are fulfilling the Door County pledge to face diversity, to learn about diversity, and here we are.
Multicultural.
Yeah, that's exactly what we've been doing.
Yeah.
And in case anyone doesn't know that on the Door County Library website under Readers Resources, I've been updating the list that covers the books read between 1994 and today.
Wow, okay.
That's a huge list.
It is.
Yeah. So you're welcome to go and see what has been covered in this book group. Good to see you, Ruth.
Way.
Hi, thank you.
The other thing I'll say, and then you can all take it over, is Kristen, who comes to our group very often, was in this morning, and she could not come today, but she said it was okay to tell everybody that she actually is the mother of a mixed race child who she gave up before to adoption.
Okay.
And only 6 years ago, she met him for the first time. And she said this book was really reminiscent of her own experience. And he lives in California. He's an adult now with 3 kids, and it's quite an experience. So I just wanted to throw that in because she said I
Yeah.
should tell everybody.
That would be, yeah, I can see where reading a book like this would really get her thinking about so many aspects of what happened.
Yeah.
Yes, that's interesting.
And of course, with DNA today, people are learning it by accident. Many things by accident.
Yeah.
But what did everybody think? What did you all think about it? Did
I
anyone-
really liked it. I thought it was just a good, interesting read.
Yeah, she has a good story with that whole
Yeah, good
sort of
story.
mystery on the side.
Mhm.
Yeah, there were a lot of things that were going on. I read it and listened to the audio. The audio was excellent.
I agree.
And one of the things that was really good was the difference in the voice when he was Francis Gray and the reading, and then when you see him as the father, as Kofi J, I think they pronounced it. And because if you were reading it, you would just think it would be the same
Sure,
voice. And
yeah.
I'm telling you, that was and it was interesting as well. It helped to add that this was almost like 2 characters.
Yeah,
Before the man in England and then the,
No,
prime minister in
was it,
Bamana.
was it just because he had matured and his voice changed, or was it an affected change?
I think it was everything.
Okay.
It was the way that
Now
he
he's in
said,
charge and he
yes.
is, or before he was this
The
guy
more
in London.
gentle
and just
or
being,
diary reading kind of,
Yeah, yes. Okay.
and then you got the more, not militant maybe, but
Well,
definitely
just
more
in authority,
authoritative.
yes.
Yeah.
did
Okay.
anyone else listen to it?
An audio?
Yeah. Do you agree? I agree. She was a brilliant reader, right?
Oh, very.
I love the book.
Yeah, in fact, I looked the narrator up because I thought she was so brilliant because not only did she do the different African accents, and she also did English, and every one of them was perfect. Her name is Sarah Powell, and she's from Jamaica. But it says on her webpage, you know, it actually has examples, if you're interested, of all the different accents and voices she does. And
Wow.
it says she specializes in West or Ivory Coast, West African accents or something. So
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, I have it
Yeah.
here in case somebody wanted to listen a little bit, but also the voice, like of the daughter,
Yeah.
you know, that,
Yeah.
oh, that was really, I mean, she comes on there and she's unhappy with that new sister and so forth. I mean, you could just hear it in the voice of, I thought it brought it way to life.
So that's quite a skill
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. Oh,
It's not just
yeah.
being an actress or an actor,
Yeah.
it's more than that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and this is one of the best
Yeah.
I've ever heard.
I'm with you. on that.
Wow. I'll have to listen
Yeah.
just for that.
Yeah, the girl with the louding voice had a really good narrator, but she wasn't quite as much depth
Yeah.
as this one. So that's a beginning. Anyone
Yeah.
have any comment? Anyone online?
I'll start. I really did enjoy the book. I did not listen to the audio, but now I plan to do so, that you've mentioned this, so that I heard the various accents. This past week, I did listen to the audio of the girl with the louding voice. And the narrator there was incredible
Yeah.
to hear the West African lilt of the main character. No, I can't think of her name right now. But it was good to hear that.
Nudie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yes.
What I really appreciate, one of the things was that the main character of this book was not a young woman. She was 40s, late 40s. She had an adult daughter. She was very mature, and it surprised me that she took so long to try and figure out her heritage, but her mother had kept it secret from her, apparently. And so,
yeah.
and I'm glad her mother left the clues. I think it was intentional. I think her mother wanted her to think about the father. So it was very interesting how she finally got, first of all, the money, and then the courage to go to West Africa. It took a couple of people had to encourage her, but that was really cool. That was very nice.
Yeah.
Did anybody like not really care? I didn't really get into Anna very much at the beginning. I thought, you know, she was on the fence about the divorce, and she had a strange, I thought, with her daughter talked fast, and she talked fast. She didn't really seem very warm with her daughter. I didn't really warm up to her. I think it took the trip to Bamana for me to really kind of figure her out and be more comfortable with her. I don't know if anybody else felt that way, that she didn't like jump out at me at the beginning. I thought she was sort of on the fence about a lot of stuff. And then this whole incident kind of changed her. I don't know if anybody else felt that way about her.
She struck me as someone who was stuck, and
Yeah.
you know, she'd been through a lot of things, but she didn't know what to do next. She was stuck, like depressed. So, I mean, the engine of finding out who her dad was, which was a dictator, I guess. I mean, that kind of galvanized the plot, and then it just got crazier and crazier from there. I thought it was really fun.
Yeah.
But do you think he was a dictator? One of the things I read here said a dictator or a leader, question mark, you know, do you think he could be labeled a dictator?
Well, he had her thrown in prison. That's enough for me.
Yeah. I mean, he started out wanting to do good things.
Yeah.
It was
Right.
a little of both. He did do some good things for the people of, I thought it might have been Ghana, but let's say Bamana, whatever you pronounced it.
Yeah, but
I think he did some good things. He improved the education, and he improved the lot of the people in the village around his estate, because it was an amazing estate with that lake and the animals and all. That is so un-African to have a lake in the middle of a parched country, but it was good. I agree with you. At the beginning, she was confused, conflicted. She had had some abuse as a child and growing up because of her biracial status, and she'd never been able to explain it. And it was very interesting to me that when she was in England, she was considered Black. But the minute she went to Africa, she was white. She was different wherever she went.
Yeah, she didn't really fit in either place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, when you were talking about him as the dictator, when he was in England, I paid attention to the kinds of talks that he went to and the speakers that he heard, and the people that he surrounded him with were much more of a kind of a militant sort of a situation. So it doesn't surprise me that he picked up on that and thought about these I can take this militant kind of idea and you know, place it in my own country and see what I can do. I mean, he ran with a crowd that was very much, you know, wanted to change things in England. And I think he took that back with him. So I can see that he would go there and be rah-rah about it. And like, I can make all these great changes instead of going to some benevolent, you know, oh, England is great and the Western culture is wonderful. Why don't you stay? That he went to things that were much more controversial, I guess.
Well, he was
Activist.
also treated in a way.
Yeah.
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 I enjoyed the relationship with his African children.
Yeah.
And how they, you know, one by one, she got to know the other children who were all her half brother or sister. And what was it they kept saying to her? She kept saying, well, I'm not really your sister. I didn't, you know, we have different mothers. And they said, it doesn't make any difference here.
That
You
is
remember-
true. In Africa,
Yeah.
there's no such thing as a half sister. Even your cousins become your brothers. And the family connections struck us always as
Yeah.
very loose and
Yeah, that was very
Absolutely.
nice, actually. That
Mhm.
Whoops, Ruth, you're frozen.
Oh, dear.
She'll be back.
Yeah, we'll be back. Yeah, I was curious about what Bamana was.
Okay.
Was it a country or not?
Well, and I had to look it up, and I
It's
always think,
fictional, yeah.
well, but it isn't.
It's a
But
ethnic group.
But yeah,
It's
there
not
is
a
a
country.
Yeah,
It's-
it's not a country
Yeah.
per se, but it is
Yeah.
a region or a regional group of
Yeah.
people. Yeah, I thought that was
I don't
interesting
know
too. I had to
too.
look it up. Is this real?
Yeah, me too. And it is a Mande ethno-linguistic group that's
Yeah.
primarily in Mali and some of those West African countries.
Yeah.
So that was pretty interesting. Ruth is coming back, I guess. I have to watch for her, but and that's where this Sankofa,
Yeah.
the bird,
Yes. that is an
that's on the
interesting-
front, the title, comes from, here it says it's an Akan tribe word from Ghana, but it also mentions the Bamana or Bara people. They use both words, I guess. And here it's, I'll read it what it says. It's the literal translation of the word, and the symbol is, it is not taboo to fetch what is at risk of being left behind.
Yeah, I wrote down the part that said it was a mythical bird that flies forward, but its head is facing backwards. So
Yeah.
while it's moving forward, it's always looking to what happened in the past. What its past isn't still important. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, you know, I think that might have been the analogy, like with Anna or
Yes.
Nana, or the name that she got changed to. She wasn't really going to understand. Maybe that's why she was in confusion back at the beginning, because until she really understood what everything that happened, how was she going to move forward? So I thought that was
Yeah,
a great
exactly.
tie-in with that, with the idea with the bird.
So they're saying the Akan believe the past serves as a guide for planning the future. To
Yeah.
the Akan, it is the wisdom in learning from the past which ensures a strong future.
Mhm.
I thought that was, yeah, really,
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Profound, yeah.
the whole
Yeah.
book is pretty well written in my opinion.
Yeah.
I'm with you, yeah.
Yeah, so just making up this country that's actually an ethnic group and, you know, right in the middle of everything, and this bird concept. And of course, I had to look up the initiation rituals. Did anyone else do that?
No, and I didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't look it up, but yeah, I remember what you're talking about.
So what I found out, just briefly, and I'm not any expert on this, they have 6 initiation rituals. The boys go through 6 of them, the girls only 1. From what I read, I don't know if that's the fact or not, but that's what I read. And so this is what she did at the very end, right?
Back
And
to the rivers,
let's
yeah.
see, where did it tell? The big thing for all of these initiation rituals are masks. So if you start looking online, you'll go to all different museums around, art museums and ethnic museums around the United States. And they talk about these masks because each mask represents something. And here it's saying the Women's Sunday Society found among the Mende and their neighbors, Mende is the Bamana ethnicity group, is one of the few organizations in which women wear wooden masks as part of the initiation ceremony. Did she wear one in her ceremony? I can't remember if that was, I can't
I
remember.
don't remember that
the
either.
mask.
It was the way it's way.
Many initiation organizations continue in today's Africa, often adapting to contemporary lifestyles. For example, in the past, the Sunday Society's initiation process could take months. Now they are adapted to the calendars of secondary school, and initiation may be completed during vacation or holiday periods. So apparently these countries are primarily Islamic, but they also have their
Their own
traditional
religion,
beliefs. So it's pretty interesting. I mean, I have to say, I'm pretty naive about these cultures.
Yeah.
Adele, you're probably more experienced than any of us here.
Well,
One
we
of
were never pretty privy to initiations of that sort, either because they didn't occur in our area or because of our foreignness, they didn't share that with us. But
Uh,
I am not surprised to hear that it is going on or was going on. I heard
Mhm.
rumors of it in the first school I taught at, which was in the 60s. I had sort of thought that was done, but maybe not. So I really can't help you on that. I think because of my foreignness, nobody talked to me about that.
Well, it would be
Yeah.
private. It would be,
Yeah.
yeah, I could see that.
You know, her name was Anna and then it became Nana, didn't they just change? And I
Yeah.
thought it was interesting too, that she doesn't get
kept
a
saying
new name. She gets a rearrangement of the name that she already has. And I thought
Yeah,
that was a really neat thing that the author did. She doesn't change structurally who she is, but some things on the inside have changed. And I didn't know if that was, they just rearrange other people's names, or did that just happen for the story? But I did think that maybe there was a reason that she kept the name, but rearranged it, just like.
and it did mean
She's kind of
something. I
rearranged,
forget what
yeah.
it meant in
In
the new name.
Right.
Does anyone remember?
No.
Yeah.
don't have
I
that
don't know if I
either.
wrote it down.
Yeah, I
Anagram,
think yeah,
it's
She's-
anagram.
Anagram.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's what it was, an anagram.
We mix it up.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Just
my
real-
mind-
I was struck
Yeah.
by fairy tale structure that she gave the book. From the title and the bird and finding the diary and having the mother that isn't she's not a wicked stepmother, but close. And then I kept having to remind myself, and then the journey to find her father who just happened to be a king. So I kept trying to remind myself that this woman wasn't a child, or she wasn't a young woman, like you mentioned, and she was a mature woman going on this adventure. But it just, to me, all the elements were very fairy tale-like and seemed to me to fit in the natural storytelling way of Africans. So they're big storytellers. And so this would fit in, their fairy tale type thing. Then
I think-
that just kept
Yeah.
striking me that was the structure that she gave.
Good point.
Yes, excellent point. I never
Yeah, I
even
didn't-
thought of that. I didn't.
I didn't
yeah.
either. I do like the fact that then she goes on the journey and she is mixed race. And when she meets the brothers and sisters, most of them are very subservient, what's the word, to the father.
Mhm.
They are immediately obedient, but she isn't. And that's a
Well,
result of
And she's Cinderella.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Cinderella.
So that gives her that real advantage with that, which I really
Yeah.
appreciated. Because that, you know, you
To
do
me, it
read
was a
about-
complete,
Yeah,
it
go
was a
on.
complete, it was a complete turnaround because back home, she couldn't decide if she wanted a divorce or not. And then all of a sudden she's standing up to this man when he's got her out in the backwoods. I would have been terrified knowing his history and all the stories she's heard about him, but she's standing up to him.
You know, and adding to that, I would like to talk a little bit about the girl that was chained to the floor.
Yeah.
That she came across there and had to get the backstory that I guess the father was punishing her for his bad business or whatever, and she was all about the rescue. That sounds like a fairy tale too, about I got to go and rescue somebody as well. But she was bent on wanting to save that girl. And I think there was something in the explanation about, oh, don't worry, she'll be freed in 3 days or something like that. And,
Mhm.
you know, and she was, you know, appalled, and she's bringing her idea about this rescue. And it was just, hold on, and in 3 days or 4 days, we'll unnail her from the floor and.
Yeah.
And, you
And
know, let
that's
her go on.
again,
And
the contrast of
the
culture.
culture.
Yeah,
Yeah,
whether we like it or not.
yeah.
Well, we do some things that aren't very good at all.
That is-
It's the
that
same
is-
way, I'm gonna say, it's just another way of looking at it.
That's an excellent point.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we remember in the girl with the louding voice, those
Yes.
women were treated pretty badly.
Yeah.
Yes.
I did read that this Maundy social structure is patriarchal
Mhm.
and patrilineal, which I think that other one book, it was not,
I
right?
agree. I did, but I think it was.
They got
more-
which one was it where they got the names through the mothers?
I thought it was the louding.
Was it the louding
I think it
voice?
was.
Yeah, this one, they get it through the father, which is what we saw here with this father. And it says that traditionally, society is hierarchical and caste-based with nobility and vassals. So we did see that in the, you know, father and in his home country.
And he
So-
set himself up
Mhm.
to be, yes,
Yeah,
put more authority in the royalty, yes,
yeah.
what he owned and everything, yes.
So again, it's a cultural difference
Oh,
and
yeah.
we may not like it, but we can't control the world always. It's impossible.
And nor should we, because our system's not exactly the greatest
yeah.
either, so. But I did think there was, if you contrast what the father was like back in the sixties and what
Yeah.
he's like in the 2000s, he kind of did some maturing and growing up too, because he decided he was going to better his people and do all this, but then he got himself in kind of wealthy and in power, and he kind of liked that too. So we saw him change a little bit in what his
yeah.
perspective was
Mhm.
on himself and his people. Yeah.
Did anyone happen to watch Masterpiece Theater this week? It's just coming to me. They have a new one that started last Sunday, and it's set in England in the 70s, I think, or
Okay.
60s. And it's something like this, you know, in some ways, there's these riots and all this going on, and there's some racism involved. It has to do with some of the right-wing people who are trying to take power over. I'd highly recommend looking in on it if you find this interesting.
Does it take place in the US or in?
In England,
In England?
yeah, Ridley's something or other.
Oh, I saw the picture of
Ridley
Show.
Road.
Yeah, did you see it?
Road.
Ridley Road. I'll have to look for
Okay,
that.
me too.
Yeah, yeah. So it's kind of makes you think of the father being there at that time.
Yes, yes. When Black people in England were not given many opportunities at all. I mean, if you watch any of their old 60s television shows, you kind of get that feeling.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyone online have anything? Too bad Ruth hasn't been able to rejoin us.
Yeah. Looking at it there.
And I think that ending was just as brilliant as the rest of it, and very much a fairy tale also, right? The initiation, so she can finally come to know her culture
And
and be accepted in the culture.
like, almost like be
Yeah.
reborn kind of thing.
Yeah. And then plans to stay for at least for a while. when she had been gun ho about going back. So she's going to give it a try.
What
One
about
thing they
the,
never talk about is the language differences. You know, they never talk about how she manages not speaking the language.
Well, did we learn in The Girl with the Louding Voice that a lot of people speak English?
Yes. And certainly
Yeah.
the wealthy and upper class, her father would definitely have had to speak English, and his children, because I think they were even educated abroad, some of them. So yes, they would all speak English. I always thought the country was Ghana, but maybe I'm wrong there. If you're talking about predominantly in Mali, that would be a French-speaking location. So in my head, this book took place in Ghana, and the city she went to was Accra.
Yeah, and it's really is, could be anything, because when you read about it, they're covering all different countries. The group, it's saying a lot of the cultural group Bamana were in Mali, but they mention other countries also, so it's not only there.
Okay, I didn't look that part up, but
Yeah,
Well,
Where
the
did
fairy
I-
tale can take place in any country.
that's true.
any of
Could be
those
any-
West African countries. Yeah,
Mhm.
but it looks like it is an invented country, right?
yes,
I mean, just a culture, not a country. I think that was pretty clever, the way she handled that. So
Yeah, she-
that we have to. look
pure.
in-
It's
Yeah. I always
Or
think it's,
just accept it.
well, no, I think it's good to have to look things up because, you know, I looked that up. I thought I never heard of that as a country, but it's not a totally made up word either. There's meaning behind it. And I think
Yeah.
that's a good thing.
Yeah. And here it's saying the Mande dominated the Western Mali, leading to the Ghana Empire. So there's a huge history there of what went
Yeah, I
on.
thought that was very interesting.
We know nothing about, because that was never something that we grew up with.
Right.
I haven't, it's all new.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I could hardly keep up with a map of Africa because things would, you know.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
you know. But it was interesting that Kofi told her that if he had known about her, that he would have insisted that she be raised in Bamana. And I
Yeah.
thought that was an interesting aspect too, because he'd been to England and he, you know,
Yeah.
kind of like her mother Bronwyn or whatever her name is and so forth. I was, you know, but he said, no, I would have insisted that you be raised here. So.
Maybe the mother knew that
And maybe her life
and
would have been
didn't
so
want to
entirely
share too
different.
much information about her father. I don't.
yeah. Yeah, they weren't a wealthy family, right? They were
No.
Mm-mm.
Pretty.
pretty.
her grandparents would certainly have definitely not wanted to send a child to Africa.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And yet the fact that he wanted to raise his children, that is very African male. And to even children, not including children born out of wedlock, they're brought into the household, taken away from their mother and sometimes and raised by the father, or sometimes the father's mother, the grandmother.
Mhm.
That's 100% typical.
yeah. And this author, by the way, was born in Lagos, Nigeria,
Yeah.
Okay.
but she lives in the UK,
Yeah.
just like that other author.
Yeah.
They're all, I don't know what is, Nigeria seems to have a lot of intellectual writers in that country.
Yes,
Interesting, isn't
And
it?
Adichie, she's from Nigeria also, huh?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they all are.
And an amazing writer.
Yeah. Pretty interesting, I think.
well, it's a huge country with several nice, very well-known universities and a very vibrant society. Unfortunately, it's the oil that could have made it much wealthier than it is, has been somewhat exploited and used by negative purposes. It has the potential to be an extremely wealthy country because of its oil.
And there's a wonderful book that I read about that too, the oil and how that affected the culture and everything. And I don't remember the name of it.
Yeah. Think of it. Wasn't it in The Girl with the Louding Voice that after a while the chapters had, when she got to Lagos, were there chapter headings that gave you facts about
From the book, yeah, the history of Nigeria or something.
Nigeria? And they would say that our population, somebody do this, or the numbers, or I'm almost certain it was in that book. That I
Yes, it
learned
was.
more.
After she
when
got to Lagos and she was working for Mama and Papa, Big Mama and Big Papa, she founded
Yeah.
a library and she quoted some of the ones were very interesting.
Yes.
Internet usage and that women owned a lot of the businesses. And she saw that operating in the household she lived in because Big Mama clearly supported Big
That's
Papa,
right.
chief as she
Yeah.
called
Yep.
Yeah.
him. Listening to that book is really good. The narrator on that one is superb.
Well,
I
Adele,
love
this,
this.
this one is on Hoopla as an audiobook, so you can easily listen to it.
Sankofa?
They-
Oh, I
Yeah.
definitely will now. I
Yeah.
read it a couple weeks ago. It's too bad Ruth isn't on. She and I had a good discussion about that on the weekend. And we were talking on the phone. And it's too bad she's not with us because she had some interesting concepts. But she liked it enormously. So I will definitely listen to this one now.
Well, I'm recording this so she can listen to it later.
Yes,
Let her know.
I will.
Um,
Her birthday is this week, so I'll be giving her a call. I think it's Tuesday, and so I will call her.
Nice. One thing, I have some questions here, not that we need to cover specific questions, but it talks about Anna being an artist. And it's mentioned throughout the book, but I didn't remember too
An
much about
architect I
it.
wrote down too.
She was an
Architect
architect and then also
Mhm.
painting,
Yes.
remember?
Yeah, yes, right.
Yeah, and it said that her paintings, none of her paintings have faces.
Right.
What do you think of that?
Yeah.
And that makes me think of the fact that these African masks are so important that they're in museums all over the United States. And that's the one thing, if you put in Banamana, you're going to pull up, these masks and figures. So is there relation to a mask being a sort of fake
Yeah.
face? And apparently some of the masks used in the initiations reflect like no mouth for certain boys. They reflect some of the things that they're going through or something to this. I'm sure there's a lot to it that I don't know about.
Right, right.
But that's kind of interesting that they have her as an artist.
And that's how she, at the end, towards the end of the book, that's how she found a way to express herself and deal with her own feelings. Yes.
Yes. One of the things she asks to be sent to her is some art supplies when she's
The art supplies,
literally
yeah.
imprisoned in the hotel, I think.
Yes. That one character, the man, his name was Adrian Bennett. He was the author of the book about
Oh,
the
yeah.
father,
about-
and then he was the one that kind of talked her really into going and went with her. I thought that was interesting that he had such almost like a different viewpoint of the father, and
Having known him when he was young.
and written about him and written about him. I thought that was kind of.
He knew him when he was young. didn't he?
Younger,
They went
yes.
to
Yes,
school
and then he
together or
wrote-
yeah.
something.
Then he wrote
Yeah.
about it, he wrote a book about it when he was young and starting his own group up. Yes, that's what he wrote about.
And
And
didn't- yeah.
they talked or something, didn't they? Or they communicated, the two of them later on in the book?
Yes,
But didn't he also indicate there was a change in the father?
Yes.
From the earlier
Yes.
days to the,
he went,
Yes.
yes. When you get, and even that was mentioned in the book, the father said too, there's a point where you have to do things differently because of who you're dealing with. And that would be people with money and people who are going to make your economy grow. You have to deal with them, even though it's not probably what you would want to do, but it's how you have to operate when you're in charge of it. So, yes.
so do you think she was going to stay there quite a while, or do you think she'd end up back in England eventually?
Good question.
Well, I think she has a relationship with her daughter that she doesn't want to just lose, but will she talk the daughter? Well, the daughter did come over, didn't she?
She seemed pretty peppy. What was
Yeah.
she, a model? Isn't that what I got out of it? She was a,
I just wrote that she was a grown woman.
Or some
not
kind
kid.
of businesswoman that was tech or something.
Oh, yeah.
But she always
She was
under that
traveling.
stress to
Yes,
get
traveling, yes,
projects done.
yes.
But the
Rose.
daughter didn't have much of a race. She didn't look
No,
black,
I wrote
Right.
down,
mixed race.
right, that she
Yeah.
looked white.
So she
right.
would look even more out of place.
The other character was the aunt, the mother's sister, who was in the nursing home. And
Yes.
she had a lot of that, you know, what you get that idea, you can kind of do things differently and be, she had been a wild one back in the 60s.
Well, hadn't
Yeah.
she also had a
Yeah.
relationship with her father? Hadn't the
Yeah.
first, the first
That was,
sexual
which-
connection was with her sister, the mother's
Yes.
sister, aunt?
yes.
Remember the scene when the mother hit Rose in public
Yeah,
and somebody stopped her or said something to her about, do the parents know that you're hitting their daughter or whatever? And I got from that they must have thought she was some sort of nanny or
Sure,
caretaker,
of course.
going on. So I think that is a lot of the relationship that Roses can pass easily. And that certainly that Anna that might not have even been the only time, but I thought that was really a good insight as well about, she says something like, the parents know, or
Yeah.
something like that, because you just assume that was the nanny.
Yes, yes. And so the complications that she had
Yeah.
living in that society wouldn't have been any there if she had been brought up by the father in this other,
Yeah.
it would have been totally different.
Well, there would have been other complications because she would, remember she was white when she got to Bamana.
Yes, that's true.
There would have been, I can't even begin to imagine what they were, but perhaps the father would not have seen a difference between the subsequent children. I think there were 4 of them, but the rest of the society definitely would have. Whether she was in school or socially, they would have known.
Yeah.
And would she be treated as a low caste or upper class caste? They said that,
Could have been both or either.
yeah,
But it was almost like, in some cases, it was almost like a criticism. When she was out in public, and the word I wrote down was obroni, O-B-R-O-N-I, which means you look white.
mhm.
And sometimes it almost looks like she was being teased or criticized, you're different, you're
Yeah,
different.
they brought attention to it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
I vaguely remember in that Americana book, didn't she say she was so shocked that Black people were treated differently in the United States as opposed to Nigeria?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And that she was upper class or something, educated in Nigeria, but not treated that,
Right,
yeah.
yes.
So it must be an experience to go to those countries and be the other.
Mhm.
As some of us would feel here. What did you think about that whole jail thing? Was that the father just teaching her a good lesson, or in a way, you got the feeling the author was trying to make it, ease it up a little by saying, oh, you had your own cell or something like that, right?
That was a little
But-
over the top to me. That was a little much.
Wasn't the father in jail
Say that
when he
again?
was in England?
Well, he was with his friend Thomas. I wrote that down, but were they in jail?
They were looking for Thomas, I think.
Yeah.
I don't
in
remember.
Newark. I don't remember that. I don't have it down whether he was or not. But I could see it being a father teaching a daughter a lesson that, who's in charge.
Well, it certainly made her think about
it.
about things. I mean,
His role.
what happened? I came here to see my father and I'm in jail and
They won't let me, they
and
took
he's
away my
the
passport.
president.
Yeah, they took away my passport and they won't, yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Do what I want
Whoa.
to do.
And we see some of this craziness going on in Ukraine too, with Russian, are you Russian, are you Ukrainian? They are, debating that, who's what.
And because of over the history, there was a lot of crossover between the two
Mhm.
And so, yes, they say that the Ukrainian people who seek asylum in Russia, because that's where their relatives all live, that's very difficult for them also.
Sure.
So,
Yeah.
yes, a big mix-up.
Yeah, and that whole scene where she's waiting in line to get the visas and the different treatments the different people get from the authorities.
Yes.
That was pretty cute. Not cute. It's not the right
Yeah,
word.
the way it is.
The way it is,
It's
yeah.
realistic, yeah,
Exactly.
Yes.
yeah. So,
Changing the subject slightly, I was telling you about this book that I'd read about West Africa
Yeah.
and about oil.
Yeah, right.
Well, the name, and it's a wonderful read. It
Okay,
is
you find it.
How Beautiful We Were. And the author is, the last name is Mbue. The first name is Imbolo.
and that's new, isn't it?
It's relatively new, yeah. It's a great book. It tells the tale of corporate greed and environmental destruction in West Africa. And, the people in this little village are dying and, it really is quite a story. And so when Adele mentioned oil and West Africa countries, it made me think of that book. It's really a very good read.
Is that fiction, Jane?
Yes.
That's nonfiction.
And it's similar to this
Yeah.
one in
Yeah.
that it is realistic, it's realistic because these things do occur, but it's written as fiction. Yeah, it's a very good read if you're interested at all in Africa and
Okay.
how beautiful we were.
Yeah, that does sound. Did they say in this case that the country had diamonds or something? Or was I?
The Diamond Coast. Or what-
Yeah, I don't know, I read a lot of books about Africa for some odd reason, probably this group.
I think when Francis went back there, that was one of the things that what he was championing, championing,
yeah.
was to get the wealth from the diamond mining back to the people
Right.
rather
Yeah.
than,
Taken out.
to the corporate,
Yeah,
yeah.
they were nicknamed the Diamond Coast or something.
Right, and
Something.
so,
Yeah.
yeah, that was part of his goal was to get the wealth back. from that. Yes.
So if Anna if she decides to stay in Belmana, she has a pretty upscale life. She
Yes,
has a lot of advantages. If she goes back to England, she has a husband who wants her to get together again, but she's kind of depressed about it.
And a daughter who has a lot of issues.
Yeah.
And she has a house though, right? Was she selling?
Well, she sold the house, so she had the money to
Yeah.
go.
Oh, yeah.
She took her mother's house, yeah, so she has the money to go.
Yeah,
So we don't know at the end whether she goes or stays.
No.
Yeah.
Is that how they, I read it quite a while ago.
Or she splits her time and she stays a while and then goes back, and there's nothing that says she couldn't.
That would make sense,
Maybe go
but you'd
back
have
and
to have
forth.
some money in order to
Well,
do that.
that'll.
That'll
I
help.
I think she's pretty beholden right now to her father. She shot her wad going to Bomana, and staying,
Yeah,
even overstaying her. I think she had planned 2 weeks and she stayed quite a bit longer. My guess
Yeah.
is she's run out of money. I think she has to do whatever he wants her to do right now, or whether he allows her to do. Let me express it a little bit differently. Does she have her passport at the end?
I think she's
Well,
free to go.
yeah.
Yeah,
She has
she's free
two double passports,
Yeah.
I think,
Yeah.
right?
Oh,
I
that's
think
right.
so.
She has 2 passports at the end,
She's free to go, but
but
what will she?
No, maybe there's a sequel. Does
Yeah.
she,
I think there is a sequel. As she,
or not? Yes.
my guess is that it would be very hard for her to return to England. She's lost her flat. She sold it. Her ex-husband or her husband, I guess they're not divorced yet. That relationship is hanging out there. She had one
Mhm.
session with the attorney and she let that lapse. She has a daughter with whom she has a conflicted relationship at best. Is her sister still alive? Her aunt is still alive.
She's in the nursing home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And-
Is dementia of some sort.
Yeah.
What does she have to go back to England for?
But she was raised there. She knows the culture.
but she's an outcast, an outlander, so to speak. She is Black in England.
Well, in 1960s, that was a bad thing, I'll say.
I
don't know if you
think it's
said
probably
that.
less severe now. than-
This is the 2000s. Are things different there?
Yeah, who knows,
Probably
really?
There probably is different
Probably
there
similar
as
to the United States.
here, which is
Exactly.
different, but not different, right?
Right.
Probably not
Depends on-
perfect.
Yeah.
My guess
I-
is that neither place is going to fit her well. She has a tough road going forward. I hope she finds something in her art or her.
Well, that's why I like the fairy tale analogy.
Yeah.
Yes,
of,
yeah.
you
You're hanging.
know, it could come up with a really good ending, and
Yeah.
yeah, I like that.
And they lived happily ever
Well, maybe
after.
not.
But I think also it's Anna and Nana. So you just think about it going back and forth,
Forth,
that,
and
you
get
know,
the best of
it's not
both.
much of a mix and you can, you know, you can make this work.
And she brings a
Maybe.
different perspective to her father's world
Yeah.
than their own children do.
And if you think about her father's world, you're left with the idea he's going back into politics. He would like to be was it
Yes.
prime minister or whatever his title was.
Right.
He'd like to have that again. Is that the world she wants to live in the palace, in the capital city? I wonder.
Well, she kept asking about those 5 people, right?
Yep.
The one that was,
Something
yes,
Kamoko
the
5
students
or
that were
whatever.
killed.
The student.
Kanako 5.
And what did you make of that whole thing? At first, she was assuming it was pretty horrific, but then
Mhm.
did he explain it?
He explained his side of it.
Yeah, what was that exactly?
I'm
that-
trying to remember because I wrote down it was a scandal that students were killed. It was supposed to be like a protest. And then these kids got killed, I think. I believe that was what happened. And he felt responsible, or he was, made to be responsible, but was it really his fault
Yeah.
when there's people out there in the streets doing things?
Probably.
So is she trying to lighten the responsibility to the father there in the book?
Well, the one who took it more seriously was that author who had written about the father.
Yeah.
He seemed to have thought that was a bad thing, and yet the father himself, of course, doesn't, to put this, to him, that's the past. That's what we had to do to get what we got,
Yeah.
So it all depends on your way you look at it.
Right, and how much information you have, and you have the correct information about what happened, because
happened.
everybody's got a side to the story.
Yeah. And I do want to point out that this is a Nigerian author who's living in England,
Mhm.
in London.
Yeah.
Today. So that's kind of interesting.
Perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's good.
She's
So-
quite young, isn't she, the author?
Mhm.
I went and I saw an interview by her. She's under 30, I think.
I don't know.
Look at her pic. I don't know if you can see her picture on the back flyleaf. She's gorgeous.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't see an age exactly, but
No.
she's pretty accomplished. This is her 3rd novel. She writes for The Guardian. And I keep thinking what she's writing about here is reminiscent to me of genealogy that people are so addicted to these days.
Finding
And
out.
why are they want to know about their roots.
I was going to mention that too, because, it reminded me of Barack Obama's book about looking for his roots and in Africa. And also, it doesn't matter where you're from. If you find your father after a lifetime of not having a father, don't you want to spend as much time with him as you can? And a girl always wants her dad's approval and be daddy's girl. And I kept thinking of all those things that would keep her,
Except he put her in jail.
Yes, but yes,
Yeah.
yeah, put her in jail, and you're aghast at that. But she's still, she asked for the art supplies and she, like Adele said, there wasn't much for her to go back to in England. I think she'd want to connect with those roots. Maybe she's like him.
And also with her 4 siblings that she's now reconnected with, or I'm connected with. 2 of which I think she might be able to make a relationship with.
Yeah, those brothers
The
seem
brother.
pretty nice.
Yeah.
His sister was kind of jealous.
Well, that's sisters.
Sisters.
And the sister was acting like she was some sort of half-breed.
Yes,
I mean, she
not as
took-
good as, yeah.
Yeah, which was pretty interesting. That approach.
Well, and his wife was never, she
Yeah, we
never
never-
met the stepmother, yeah. And didn't sound like they would probably have a good relationship.
Nope. Well, except I'm thinking in the African context, it would not be as bad as it would be in our culture. Be more acceptable. Usually it didn't happen when the child was 40 years old or 45 years old. It usually happened when the child was 1 or 2. So it's not quite the same thing, but it would not have been total rejection. The society never rejects a child.
Especially if the father insists on it happening the right way.
And the father is the prime minister or whatever his title was.
Yeah. Yeah, that was pretty interesting.
I think when she was in England, she was dominated by her husband. She didn't have to work. She had gone to be an architect and she didn't like that and went into art. But then I think they said she never sold any of her paintings. So she wasn't really realizing her potential in England. But I think the same thing would have been happening over in Africa because she would have been under the father's shadow as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, except that she was raised in a Western culture by a Western mother. So perhaps not as extreme as you're implying, but here she would have definitely been the other, the outsider, wherever she lived.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, we're coming up on an hour. Does anyone have anything you are dying to add to the discussion? I think this has been a really interesting discussion.
Yes.
I really
Very
like
good
this
book.
book.
Isn't it fun?
I like the fact that we read it shortly after reading the other ones.
Yeah.
To
Yeah.
go with louding
So,
voice, yeah.
although I liked it better than the Louding Voice, I think they are interesting to compare.
I think they were both very good.
This kind of reminded me of a book that I read, and it's much more lighthearted than this, but it's by Fannie Flagg, and it was the all-girls final reunion of the filling station, or the
Yeah.
all-girls filling station final reunion. And
Yeah.
she finds herself, she's 65 and finds she's been adopted. That she's living in Alabama and is a member of the Daughters of the Confederacy and finds out she's been adopted by a Polish family from Pulaski, Wisconsin.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
right, yeah.
I did flying airplanes during the war. Yes.
What
Yeah.
was the name?
Oh,
It's Fannie Flagg, yeah,
The
the
lovely-
author.
The author, I haven't read the book.
Yeah, something filling station.
I
The
love
final
it.
reunion of the all-girls filling station,
there's a lot
something
of
like that.
stuff.
I have to look that up.
It's good.
It's
I
a
think you
like,
like it. It's a good book to listen to, I think.
It is. I think I did do that one on audio.
When we're going through depressing times.
yeah, that's a good one, be a good one for that.
Yeah.
But yes.
Well, thank you for joining us and
Yeah.
good to see you all next month.
Yes.
Maybe in real life. Linda,
Real
you
life.
think-
Maybe.
Month.
Arlen, what about you?
I'll be there around that date, but I probably won't make the next one.
Maybe
And
July.
and did anybody read the Country Friends yet?
I'm on the waiting
Country
list for it.
Country Friends,
Friend.
yeah.
Wait to
Yes,
hear
ma'am.
what everybody says about that one.
Oh, no, I haven't got that.
Is it good?
It's a group that's together during the pandemic. It's
Oh, okay.
kind of strange people.
Our country, okay.
I like Country
I'm
Friends.
just on Paris Library, but I'm almost done with
I
that.
want to know,
What's your comment about it? The Country Friends?
My Country Friends. Well, I'm anxious to hear. I was wondering if anyone else had read it yet, and I was anxious to hear.
Is the title My Country
My
Country
Country Friends, I think.
Our
So it's a-
country friend.
R,
Like that? Oh, good.
it's O-U-R.
Okay.
Are you
okay.
saying you want it because you're curious what our reaction is, or?
Oh, yeah, I can't wait to hear what everybody, it'll be a real interesting discussion.
Jill